Whoa. Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 197 for September 14th, 2016. My name is Russell Frost from the Prius Owners Group, and I am very glad to be back here with you after taking a month off, and I apologize for that because that's my fault. I would normally blame it on Tony because I blame everything on Tony, but this one I gotta own. So you may notice some of my possessions behind me. I've just recently relocated, and we're still not unpacked. But we're here doing the show live with you, and let me see. Wait, I have to go back to the script now. Tonight, I'm joined by my co-host, Tony Schaefer.
Oh my God, you told me to write a script that sounded natural, and then you read it like that. Yes, those are the behind-the-scene things that happen every time here at What Drives Us. When you said I'm in the free and clear for the blame, I just tuned out after that. That was all I needed to hear.
I'm actually going to blame you a lot on the website.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because that's the permanent thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's there forever.
No.
So, well, let's see. We got another great show lined up for you tonight. Let's meet tonight's panel. He's the head of the Waterloo Region Voltec Group, our resident Chevy Volt driver and plug enthusiast, and he kept me entertained for almost an hour on Periscope tonight. His name is Mark Coughlin.
That's what I was hoping for, Russell. That's the only reason I did it. So I'm glad I succeeded at least that. Welcome everyone back. You mean we were on a break? I was here every week. Where was everyone else?
Mark was doing shows.
I was rolling through stories. I thought things were going smooth.
Can't you hear me?
Thought Russell was a bit quiet, but I was okay with it.
Yeah. Most people would be. Well, we also have our man in Missouri who splits his item. He splits his time. Who splits his time? Thank you. Tony's now changing the script live.
I got all the letters right.
Let's read that again. We also got our man in Missouri who splits his time between his Prius and his Tesla. Let's give a warm round of applause for Dr. Evan Bosco!
Hey, everybody.
God.
Censor round.
Wow. We are off to a very professional start so far.
We have been away.
I just, you know what it is? Now that I'm in this location, I can swear again and I can yell and things are going to go to shit really quick.
In fact, we're at 4 minutes and 13 seconds.
And we've earned this week's explicit tag. I'm so glad to be back. I missed you guys and I missed doing the show. So, okay, let's see. Back. News intro. Enough of that. Let's get That's horrible. Why would I do that to Tony's script? Because I've read the script already on the air.
Dude, you're the only sober one, and you're acting like this.
That explains a lot. It tells you a lot about me, actually. Well, enough of that. Let's get this show on the road. Let's see. It just so happened that all of the news articles in today's show are EV related. So let's kick off this electrified show with Evan and this week's first story.
Hey, I don't have a whole lot to talk about today, but Elon Musk put out one of his infamous blog posts, albeit a couple weeks late, thanks to a small rocket explosion down in Florida that kind of delayed. But he was interestingly kind of sending out information about the release of version 8 of the Tesla software, which is going to be one of the biggest changes yet. It won't have we don't think it's going to have quite as many changes to the graphics and user interface, but it's a pretty dramatic shift in how the autopilot system works. Whereas currently it's using more the camera as its primary sensor for visually confirming obstructions in other vehicles. They did some research and got with the company that manufactures the radar system, which took some other secondary role. And don't ask me to get technical and explain that, but they're now going to be using the radar as the primary sensor, which should increase the speed and sensitivity, even though there are difficulties in doing that. And he went to pretty great length explaining things from like the wavelength of photons and how that affects the way that the radar works and why it sees what it sees and why it sees things that are not really real, but that they've somehow worked around it. It's a pretty fascinating read. If you can go to the Tesla.com and click on the updates tab at the top right, and it'll bring you to the September blog post. And it's I don't know, it's interesting to read. It's not that long, but it's kind of fascinating if you're into that technical type stuff. And then at the end, he also had the additional autopilot release notes and just kind of talked about a few of the other technical aspects of some things that'll change, and ends with approximately 200 small enhancements that aren't worth a bullet point. I'm not really quite sure what that means, but
yeah, what that means is there are dozens of developers who just got belittled.
Exactly. So your brakes work better now? Who gives a rat's ass?
Right. Yeah.
But they've I think one of the negative things that people are already complaining about is that the nag for the auto steer is going to work a little bit differently. In the past, it would nag you to grab the steering wheel if it didn't sense any torque on it in the past. And then if you didn't, after a while, the car would start slowing down and eventually kick out of autopilot. But then you could kick it right back in as soon as it did that. Now, if you ignore, I think it's 3 warnings in a row, it will kick you out of autopilot and it won't let you put it back in until you've stopped the car and started it all over.
Basically, a full system reboot is necessary.
Exactly. So they're trying to increase that awareness, because I think everyone pretty well understands that the couple deaths, or at least the one major death that we know was associated with a driver using autopilot at high speed, was probably because he was watching a Harry Potter movie and not paying attention to the road and hadn't touched the steering wheel.
In my opinion, the person or the people who complain the loudest about not being able to take your hands off the steering wheel are the people who were next in line to be headlines. So it's a good thing that they're complaining and we're keeping them under control.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot of excitement in the Tesla community about the new software.
I'm surprised. Dare I suggest that Tesla owners are demanding? Am I allowed to suggest that? I'm surprised they'd put up with that. I mean, why should because all the other living Tesla owners aren't stupid, right?
Yeah. At the same time, Tesla doesn't want to get in too much trouble with NHTSA either. And so they want to say that they've added enough, safety features to, protect the passengers the best they can. I can understand that.
Interesting.
But it's not a big deal. I mean, I've been describing autopilot as cruise control on steroids, and that's really all it is. It at no point should you be taking your hands off the wheel, doing something other than driving down the road, just like you do with cruise control on. You still have to keep your hands on the wheel. You still have to look at the road ahead of you so that the cruise control doesn't run you into somebody if they pull out in front of you. And autopilot essentially only adds auto steer to that combination. And it's got some advanced braking things and collision avoidance mechanisms, but it's not autonomous driving. It never was. It's just cruise control on steroids, and it just takes that one extra step away, just like cruise control lets you relax your legs when you're driving and not have to pay continuous attention to your speed. The autopilot, the auto steer component lets you not have to focus all of your attention on steering, but you still have to drive the car and be in command.
But what's the word auto shorthand for?
Automatic.
Autonomous.
No.
It's not short for that. It's a suffix going back to the Latin word. No, I don't know. I'm just making that.
I think in some ways Tesla made their own trouble. But I don't disagree with. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal. You know, I just think that naming it autopilot was kind of, again, it was a little. They got a little cocky, and I think it got the best of them.
I think it's a marketing thing, and I think we've addressed that before. That they went and called it autopilot. And so people just assumed it was a fully autonomous autopilot right off the bat. But if they would have called it, you know, Evan Fusco trademarked cruise control on steroids, then people would have treated it completely differently.
Well, look at the people at the other end of the spectrum. You know, the most conservative, one of the most conservatives out there, Toyota, has their version, which isn't at all supposed to be like Tesla's, but they call it dynamic cruise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, clearly they're trying to come at that from a different, they're not trying to sell that. And the reason I bring this up, Evan, and everyone, but I mean, Evan specifically here, is one of the political commentators that I read regularly has been banging away on the whole autonomous car issue. It's his just rigid opinion that autonomous cars will never happen, it won't work, and it's a foolish waste of money, which generally this guy's very smart and very bright and sees things that, you know, I go, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. But on this, when I first read that, I thought, oh, the guy's crazy. I mean, it's going to happen. We're already almost the way there.
Right.
But I think his point, and it's a very, very good point, is that with anything, it's easy to get to the like 80, 90% level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that last few percent that are exceptionally difficult. In the rain, in the snow, with someone with the sun in your head, you know what I mean? Like all those conditions, and then boom, someone loses their head, you know? And that autonomous cars are never really going to get to that point. And again, the examples he uses are like the Uber tests in Pittsburgh, you know, which are autonomous if you don't count the relief driver and the engineer in the car.
Right.
You know, which of course is a test. I understand that, but it's hard to imagine in some ways that we're going to get to that point.
Would you not agree, though, that they are going to try because there's too much money involved not to?
I think his point is that why would we not that we have one pool of money for everything, you know what I mean?
Right.
But why are we going to spend all this money on autonomous cars when we could spend money on other things that would get people from point A to point B, and we wouldn't have to mess with all the other things attendant to autonomous vehicles?
Yeah, but that's not how capitalism works.
It isn't. And it also will make regular cars more safe, which I think is a very laudable goal. It's going to save some lives.
Like I can see the big one is the trucking companies.
Sure.
Just rubbing their hands together, going, all we need is an automatic rig, and man, the cost of a driver goes out the door.
Right, except you know, I think the smart application, at least in the near term, you know, if they never get to that point, the smart application is that the autonomous, the whatever we want to call it, the smart vehicle is, like Russell said, 85-90%. But then it's on the driver to make up the remaining 10 to 15%. You know, that the guy in the Tesla who drove into the semi because the Tesla couldn't tell the difference, every human would have been able to tell the difference had he been paying proper attention to the road. Semis would be great on the interstate in clear weather, but that human needs to be there when you exit and now you're driving in rush hour traffic, or you suddenly go into a rainstorm and the radar system just goes haywire.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. So I think the smart application is that 85-90%, but you always have a human in the seat to make up the part that the computer just doesn't know what to do with.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to be it or not. It's I think they're going to try to do it completely. And you're right, Tony. They're going to have that person in the driver's seat to deal with those strange occurrences when the computer doesn't understand what's going on. But they're really going to try to push. Like, that will be testing, and that will be over time. They will just slowly inch that driver out of the seat, I believe.
Yep. I think so too. I think you'll hit that 85-90 mark, and then over time, on its own momentum, people are going to start demanding the autonomous. Like, why do I have to hold the steering wheel all the time. The car does everything anyway. And some push will come out there. Be that, whether the roads will need to be equipped to facilitate the autonomous driving. I think there's probably going to be some additional step required in there besides the vehicle alone driving on the types of roads that we have now. It may be that there may need some type of electronic controls so that when their two cars are approaching an intersection, they're communicating with each other and controlling that traffic flow so that one goes through, the other slows, those sorts of things. And I think it'll have to be something integrated with the road network ultimately to really hit that 100% autonomous that's 100% safe.
Didn't we once have an article, and this was many years ago, in which we said that it takes 15 to 20 years for new technology to be ubiquitous on at least American highways and streets. And the reason they came up with the 20 years was because you don't see many cars that are older than 20 years being driven in America. In order to reach that 100% where cars are constantly talking to themselves, and that's what we're going. I mean, we're now looking at 2035 if we start now. By the time it's perfected, we're looking at 2020. So now we're looking at 2040. So, it's going to be a very long time before cars are talking to each other, before the stoplights are no longer needed because now all the cars are talking to each other.
They can't adapt that to my 72 Pinto?
I'm not saying it can't. There's like VR. I think that's speaking a whole different protocol.
Yeah, but you bring up a really good point, intentionally otherwise. What about my classic 66 Vet? I can't drive my Vet anymore because it can't talk to the other cars. It's just a dumb car. It's going to smash it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
This is a thorny problem. And it's that last 5% that's really, really difficult. That's all.
You mean I can't use that black and white film in my digital camera anymore? What the hell? This sucks.
Nice.
Shouldn't have bought that box from Kodak.
Yeah.
I got the new iPhone, and I can't figure out where to load the film. They keep touting the camera. I opened it up, and I just couldn't figure out where the film goes.
Well, let's go from one EV manufacturer to another. Mark has some news on the upcoming Bolt, and that's Bolt with a B, Bolt.
Bolt is correct. Just yesterday, they announced the actual mileage rating of the car. An EPA rated 238 miles for the new Bolt before it goes on sale. So they're letting little pieces of information out about the car. And we had actually a guessing game on our Twitter feed asking people what they expected the number to be. And we had not really many people that guessed above 225. So it was a bit of a surprise. It went to 238.
Yeah.
So great news. It's going to be that 60 kilowatt battery is going to do some overtime. And what they believe is that, again, they had city combined highway amounts. And of course, your range is going to vary based on how you drive and where you drive it. But if it's anything like the Volt with a V, what are you doing, Tony?
No, that's Evan.
Tesla killer, say it.
Tesla killer.
That it just may kill that Tesla Model 3. No, I'm not saying that.
No.
Say it. The Woz is saying it.
Woz is on board.
The Woz is off the bandwagon quick.
Can we not trot Woz out every time he barfs up some bit of? I mean, I love him. He's a great guy, but come on, the guy's been wrong on a lot of shit.
Apple.
Okay? Oh, yeah. I bet he
just helping with the tags.
He probably There we go.
Right.
More. So, Mark, here it comes.
Look out.
So are you going to go ahead?
238 miles. That's awesome. But wait. Someone at Chevy consciously, intentionally priced this vehicle $2,500 higher than the Model 3 base.
Or did they, Russell?
Ooh.
Yeah.
There was a comment in the press release about them not, saying the 37.5 was exact.
Oh, so they're just shoveling bullshit then.
They're just maybe they are providing information that they know they can better, just like the mileage.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that, to be honest with you. I mean, I just like I get the under promise over deliver thing, but when it comes to like pricing and EPA and stuff, I just want the numbers. I don't even play a game.
No games, just the numbers.
Yeah. I was shocked that this car was priced higher than the Model S because the Model S is supposed to be.
And I don't know if that's the case. I'm reading into it. I saw the press release, and it didn't say solidly. It said that it may come in under the MSRP of 37.5.
And I think there's a lot of question marks still. Maybe the Bolt is going to come loaded with more features than the S. Or the S than the Model 3, because I think that Model 3 is going to be pretty bare bones at that 35,000 mark, and Tesla said that they expect the average sale price is going to be closer to 42.5 on that. So maybe if you want the heads-up display instead of having to read your speed off of the monitor, you're going to have to pay up for that. And so I think I don't know. I think they're the only two that really have any potential in this market right now, right? I mean, they're head-to-head Model 3 versus Bolt, where this is going. And obviously Chevy's going to get to market first, so that may steal some of the audience. And then they can always bring the price down when the Model 3 finally hits the roads. It's an interesting... It's interesting. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I mean, it's a 60 kilowatt hour battery?
Yeah, 60 kilowatt.
That little car, that's a freaking huge battery in that little car.
Yeah.
Now, that's why it looks like a BMW i3, unfortunately. But
I'm looking at that battery, and the displays, and seeing the display at the auto shows, and then seeing the car. That battery is the entire underside of the car, and then we know it comes up a little, in the back.
In the rear seats,
Yeah. And with that much weight, that low, I bet this thing is going to be a riot to drive around town.
It was.
I didn't know you had driven it. You driven it?
I was in it. We went to the Chevy Dream Cruise on Woodward Avenue in Detroit, and they had 12 Bolts there, and they took us all out for a spin down Woodward Avenue. And the car is peppy. It is more peppy once you get it rolling than it is from a stop.
Interesting.
So they were goosing it after like 30 miles an hour, and there was significant pull to push you back in your seat. Whereas the Volt, you get that initial pull from 0 to 30 miles. The Bolt has that extra pull once you get to 30 and above. So apparently, and I just read this today, that it's not as fast off the line as the Volt. It's slightly slower, but it's much faster midterm.
Interesting. They didn't give you any specs?
No specs. No, just what we felt when we were driving.
Yeah.
Huh.
And coincidentally, a bunch of reporters were given the car in California and told to drive down the Pacific Coast Highway.
Uh-oh.
No,
Mark.
Oh, no. Someone just cut power to Canada.
Yeah.
Oh,
Aliens have landed in Kitchener and frozen Mark in time.
Oh, my God. Mark had disclosed too much.
Yeah. The Chevy spies got to his ass.
But I'll tell you what, if it starts at 37.5 or 35,000, and then you have the federal incentives and state incentives, and it could potentially bring it to under 30,000. I could be all over this.
Yeah. So here,
seeing it at the auto show, and having my 2004 Prius, I have come to appreciate and love hatchbacks and folding seats. Love those things. I would be more inclined to get this because it has a hatch in the back instead of a trunk.
So
Sorry,
the biggest drawback that I've heard so far is, and I believe Chevy's confirmed this, that they have no intention of investing in a rapid charging network. And I mean, I think that's a big deal for people that still want to be able to drive. I mean, that was the hook for me for Tesla, was that ability to get in my car and drive a long way on the supercharger, at least knowing eventually I would have that capability. So I kind of hated to hear that kind of comment from them, other than, I think they could have even said something, we're going to work with, local power authorities to help, build a CHAdeMO network or SAE network or whatever they're going to use. So something to suggest that they give a damn about people being able to drive farther than 200 miles and then stop.
Right.
So that's still going to be a drawback and a marketing problem for them, unless, again, they're just holding back information.
It is, but I live in a 2-car household, and I have a hybrid. And if I get an EV, then the hybrid goes on long trips, and the EV is my daily commuter. I mean, that's it. Problem solved.
Well, you could get a Nissan Leaf if all you want is a daily commuter.
Yeah.
Right. But with my 54-mile round trip a day, I'd be plugging that in every day. This I could plug in every other day or something. It just comes down to how often I'm refueling.
Tony has range anxiety.
No, it's not range anxiety. It's just plugging in every day versus plugging in every other day.
I mean, that makes sense. And I'm conflicted on this car because on one hand, I love the idea that number one, love the idea that Chevy's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
An EV. Cheers to them, because Toyota's not doing it and Honda's not doing it and Chrysler sure as hell ain't doing it.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, number one, I don't want to take that away from them. That said, I'm a little surprised about the pricing. It smacks of them taking profit while they can, and good for them. It's a capitalist world until the Model 3 comes out. And they're going to get away with that. And I think when the Model 3 is actually there, when it's actually on the road, I think you've got a whole other level of competition. With
however, just like Evan said, is the Model 3 going to be able to hold the line? Price tag wise,
it's going to have I think it goes deeper than that, though. It's good. Number one, it's not going to look like the Bolt, and number two, it's going to have a Tesla logo on the front.
Yep.
And I don't mean that like in a smart ass way. I mean that seriously. If the front of your car says Aston Martin, it's cooler than if it says Ford, even if it's a $30,000 Aston Martin. You know what I mean? It's just that's just brand identification.
So it looks like Tell City's 360 miles?
375 door to door.
Door to door. So with a stop in Indianapolis at the supercharger, you could easily make that trip.
Oh yeah, I've already planned it out.
In what, a Model 3?
Yep.
Yeah, in a Model 3. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Or it's a Ford Fusion, not even a stop for gas.
Well, I mean, there's that. I'm looking. I need a car. I need a vehicle of some kind, and I'm just like I'm conflicted on the motorcycle because I don't want a gas vehicle, and yet I live in a place where it rains constantly. It's not super pleasant to ride a bike.
How are the hurricanes?
Well, yeah, I could get blown right off the road. Do we even need to go into that?
Hurricanes are horrible for Honda Insights.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even with my fat ass in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
But shout out, Tom.
Yeah.
But it's so. I mean, I'm looking at used Leafs. I'm looking at maybe at Bolts, and there's not a lot of options. Like I can't find an iMEV. I can't find an i3. There's not a lot of options, especially here in a in a state that isn't a CARB priority state.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're not going to, obviously the advantage Chevy has is that they've got to market first. That's huge advantage, and good for them. So it's not really going to matter what the head-to-head comparison is, but I suspect. Hey, Mark, welcome back.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
Potty break?
You had to bring that up. No, I have to keep that quiet.
But I suspect that when they do compare head-to-head, that Chevy's going to have to do some adjusting, because no matter no matter the range or what features Chevy puts in it, it's probably not going to match up 1-to-1 with the Model 3.
Right.
Oh, it's not. Yeah.
And we were discussing, Mark, the Chevy's saying that they don't have any intention of building out a high power charging network, and how that's going to make it very difficult to compete alongside Model 3.
Yeah, there's certainly that case. I know that certain jurisdictions are starting to build out their own charger systems. You can see that in the UK. You can even see that for some stretch of the imagination here in Ontario. The government and private industry are getting involved in building out their own to service the EVs that they want to bring. So governments are trying to push EVs, therefore they're working with private companies to put these DC fast chargers in place. Granted, they're not as fast as the Tesla ones. No one's claiming they are. And, it's going to be tougher to, keep a bunch of unrelated stations together as opposed to a centrally owned one. Right. There's no doubt that it's going to be tougher, but they don't have to spend the money to do it. So maybe that's what they're betting on. I'm not sure.
Hey, Mark, I'm just curious. The one thing I couldn't find before the show was, do we know the charging protocols that the Bolt is set up for?
What do you mean by protocols, like speeds?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it will charge to 80% in 60 minutes, which
on what, like CHAdeMO or something?
On DC fast quick charge.
Okay.
So there's that, and of course, then there's the level 2 that it will take 9 hours to charge from a completely dead battery on level 2.
On level 2.
Yeah.
And what about, is there any level 1 charging with this?
There is level 1 charging, and who knows what the figure is. Maybe it's a week. I don't know. Level 1 is like, if level 2 is 9 hours, you're probably looking at 24, maybe 30 hours.
What's the onboard charger capacity?
We're guessing it's 6.6. It might be 7.2.
Seriously?
It might be 7.2.
So weak.
They haven't actually put it on the website. So
well, and that's what I was kind of wondering is because, I mean, there's been some issue with which vehicle charges more quickly than the other, with certainly first generation Volt, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one downfall of the second generation Volt, I would say, is that they didn't put a 6.6 charger in it. That they say they don't need it, but having one, I know that I would love it. I would have paid extra for it.
Having 20, I know I would really, really want it.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. They haven't actually published the number on the 9 hours as to what the charging speed is, but maybe it is 7.2. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Man, I remember back in the day when we used to say, well, you plug it in when you get home, it'll be charged before you go to work. Don't worry about how long it takes.
Yeah.
And most days I don't, but
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You don't do that most days.
We talk about range anxiety. I'm going to coin a phrase is gas anxiety. I've got a trip to Kentucky next month, and I've already got anxiety that I'm going to have to drive a gas car to get there because of the charging options available, and I'm highly dependent on my ability to drive that electric car, and I always want to drive the electric car whenever I possibly can.
Yep.
So it's
we call it the game here. That with a Volt, you're always trying to get more electric range. You're always trying to delay the start of that gasoline generator. And I play the game too. Absolutely. Yeah. I was in Toronto last weekend, and here I am looking for a charger, even though I don't need a charger. I could just drive the car. I don't have to have a charger, but I still wanted to fill the battery up while I was waiting so I would get more range on the way home.
Yeah.
Are you going to drive a gas car, Evan?
I don't think so. Actually, I think I've figured out a route I can do. It only adds about 30 miles of range. I'm still waiting for the freaking Rolla, Missouri supercharger to open. They had some kind of construction problem and had to dig up all the concrete that they'd already poured. And they had the whole thing. It looked like it was ready to energize. And I don't know if something happened when they energized it or what, but they made the contractor come back in and tear up all the concrete And
Wow.
so it should be up and running in the next week if everything goes right. But I need that one up, and then I'm going through St. Louis, Effingham, and Louisville to get where I need to go.
I just pictured Evan driving a gasoline car, crying the entire time.
I'm more afraid I'm going to just leave the thing running all night long. Forget to turn it off.
Right, because that happens.
In Florida, that's what people don't. I can't be a man. I can't even tell you how often people leave their cars running here now, and part of the reason is because it's so damn hot. You know what I mean? But now that gas is cheap, I can't tell you how many trucks are idling in the grocery store parking lot. Okay,
makes them easier to pick out which one to steal.
Apparently, stolen cars aren't a problem in Florida because it is staggering how many people leave their cars running. And it's all because gas is $1.95. Who cares?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
The bottom line. Well,
so what do you guys? I was cut off earlier, but what do you guys think about the styling? What is your thought? Is this a sellable vehicle the way it's styled?
Yeah, it's fine, but it's not sexy like a Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll sell. But I mean, look. Okay, you put them side by side. Which one you want?
Yeah, I can completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's not even a race.
It's interesting that they, obviously they did the market analysis. They had to have, and they decided that they wanted to make it look like this.
Chevy.
Well, I mean, obviously that the styling is as much a function of the form in this case. They could have maybe taken a hit in the range to make it look a little sexier, right?
Yeah, maybe.
It's taking a hit in storage or internal volume or something and make it look a little faster, but they went for practicality. And I think that makes sense, luring new adopters.
Yeah. But I mean, again, having seen them in the car shows and climbed around in them, yeah. I had no problem. I really liked it. I liked the hatch. It opened wide. I feel that this car would be a better bridge for families with multiple kids who have to lug around a lot of stuff. Whereas, sort of getting the Tesla would be more like buying a Corvette. And it's like, okay, now where do we put all our stuff? We have this sexy car.
You're assuming that the Bolt's going to have more cargo capacity, and I don't think I'd make that assumption.
Yeah, the Bolt has a staggeringly small hatch. It's nice. The main passenger volume is nice. It really is. Well, I sat in the front and the back at the one in the New York Auto Show. And it's a comfortable car, and the interior space is pleasant. But that hatch is like what, 1.5 inches deep? Okay,
it's more than that. And if you leave the curb, you can fold the seats and you can fill it up.
Yeah. If you fold the seats, it becomes cavernous. Yes, agreed. But with the seats up, it does. You fold those back seats down, and you've got a large hatch with a lot of room. Like a lot.
Not a Prius lot. It's small. Okay? I'm just saying it's small. Yeah. It's not that big. It's a stubby short. It doesn't have that drawn up back.
But
so even with the seats down, you're not carrying a dishwasher or anything. Okay.
So the litmus test here is: could Hobbit sleep in the back of a Bolt?
Oh God. Wow, we had to go there, didn't we? I feel like I need a shower.
But to answer your question, Mark, if the Bolt comes in at $35,000 or $37,500, as they say, or maybe they do bring the price down, and there's federal incentives and state incentives, if I had a home charging system, I would be very swayed to get this car.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Evan, do you think that this will actually pull people off the 40,000 waiting list, 400,000 waiting list from Tesla? Will there be any amount of mass defection, or just a couple here and there?
What's a couple? 10% maybe would be my guess. I don't know. I don't have a good feel for the average person that got on the waiting list for Model 3. I really don't. I guess Danny would have been a good person to ask since he's on that list. Is he tempted, or is he like, oh, screw that? I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone, but that the tiny sample size. So I don't know.
I mean, obviously Chevy's going to be delighted. They're going to pee themselves if they can peel 10% off that list in the next 18 months. 40,000 cars is not something, you know what I mean? If they can do that.
So let's say I'm a marketer for the Chevy Bolt. Here's the things I'm going to sell it on. One is that they are not going to run out of the federal tax credit as fast as Tesla is. So you're going to be fairly assured that you're going to be able to get that with it, because Tesla's going to be coming really close pretty fast on their 200,000 mark. Second, Chevy's got a massive infrastructure for service departments, and I still hear every day people concerned about getting their vehicle serviced when they get one, particularly if you live down in BFE where I do. It's still almost 200 miles to the closest service center. And there's people south of me that are 400 plus miles from the closest service center. So that's still an issue. So, while Tesla's got the high marks for having the network. We just got a message from Danny because he's listening. The service center, the reputation is going to be there for Chevy. Hang on, let me see what Danny just sent me.
He fell asleep.
Fell asleep. All right, Danny says it depends if any utterly amazing lease deals pop up for the Bolt. Otherwise, I'm staying on the Model 3 list.
I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume, and I don't know what the number is either, but that Chevy's going to be able to peel some people off. It's going to get some good reviews. The early word has already been pretty positive, and if Chevy does the job on this that they did on Volt, they'll definitely be able to peel a few people off. I don't know what their sales target is, but I'm sure it's not 500,000 cars.
I hope it is.
Yeah, certainly, and definitely not the first, let's say 100,000. Not the people, of course, who stood in line at the Tesla dealerships, but you're looking at number 350,000 and above. In what year are they going to get their Tesla?
Especially if Tesla announces any delays. It's got another year delayed because of production or problems or something. Yeah, you could definitely start seeing some of that. And especially if they start getting nervous about not getting the tax credit. Yeah, so I'm not worried as a previous owner. I'm bumped to the front of the list. I'll get mine with plenty of tax credit left, and I'm not in a hurry to get it. But yeah, I think there's people that are like, I want my car, I want it as soon as possible, and I'm not going to put up with Tesla delay bullshit.
And don't sell me on the tax incentives, and then tell me that they're dried up. Exactly.
Yeah, that will certainly be an issue for a lot of people because, as we know, these people, most that got involved with it because of the price. They weren't going to buy a Model S or X because it was out of the price range. But you bring it down to a medium segment, and these people, they're going to be sensitive about that tax credit.
Right. Yeah, and under 30,000, you're looking at less than a top-of-the-line Prius. So, I've always been on board with the Prius because I don't have a way to charge at my house. But if you're coming in under and I'm paying 8.5 cents a kilowatt hour, I could probably afford to put a charging system in.
All right, so I got a follow-up response from Danny. He says, the hatchback functionality is appealing, but buying a GM product is not as sexy a proposition as buying a Tesla, like buying Jordans versus Jordache shoes.
I mean, and I think that's going to peel some people off. Some people are going to go, oh, Chevy, American, even though Tesla's American, you know what I mean? Like, they've got a Chevy truck, so this is appealing. And other people are going to be like, are you kidding me? Tesla's the brand. Tesla's way cooler.
Yeah.
Numbers wise, I think Evan, if they do manage to peel off Evan's 10%, like I said, I think the people Jim are probably going to be delighted.
Oh yeah, there'll be handsprings going on in Detroit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I hope that Chevy can ramp production and get this thing to every market like they've said they're going to as quickly as they can. I think that's just so critical here. If they just focus on the freaking California market and stuff again, I think people are going to get frustrated again with the whole deal.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. We've already heard here in Ontario and Canada that we're not going to get it until January. So we're going to be on the lower end of it, and it's going to be released, they're saying, next month in the U.S. So, and we've had people that have sent us pictures on our Twitter feed, WR Voltec, that they're showing the parking lot being filled with these bolts at the Orion plant in Michigan. So it's happening. They're building them. Are they building them in significant volumes? I don't know.
So in Canada, are they going to be required to be sold with engine block heaters if they come out in January?
No, but maybe like the Volt, it'll be the requirement for the Volt now is everybody gets heated seats and heating seat steering wheel. That is any car that comes into Canada, that's an automatic.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Why would they require that?
Well, come live here, Evan. I'll tell you.
Just gonna say,
how to do that.
But if you're dumb enough to not
come in
buy
February, Evan. I will show you why.
I've been to Calgary in February.
If you're dumb enough to not buy it, you're dumb enough to not buy it.
It's like saying yes, seatbelts. If you're dumb enough to buy a car without seatbelts, then you deserve. At some point, they get to say, "Guess what? You need to have these." It seems reasonable. Well, before we beat this up too much, let's talk about another. We'll finish off our trilogy of all EV stories with a story that Tony has about one of my favorite companies.
Oh, our favorite whipping boy company of late, Volkswagen, has made the ridiculous claim, and I found this at digitaltrends.com, and I have to say, I literally didn't find this at digitaltrends.com. Actually, it was posted, it was done in our Flipboard, and so I have to give, a shout out for that. Geez, I just went blank, and I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, no. So
we're talking about the Volkswagen.
Yeah, but geez, I was going to give a shout out to Philip, but sorry, man, I've been away for so long.
Mr. Barclay.
Yeah, Philip Barclay posted this, and I just spaced. Sorry about that, man. Because he's been posting so many articles, and it just sort of caught me off guard. But and by the way,
he is
drinking.
prolific.
You've seen,
and
this,
I mean that in the best way.
Yes, yeah. So he put this up from digitaltrends.com that apparently Volkswagen is now saying that they are going to come out with an EV version of the Golf. Okay. Nothing major there. Everyone could kind of expect, an EV Golf, that sounds great. Now, what they've said is, after our shock and awe of the almost 240-mile Bolt, Volkswagen has said, their Golf is going to get 300 miles.
Wait for it.
Wait for it. Charging a full charge in under 15 minutes. 300-mile range, 15-minute charge.
And
it'll cost less than the traditional gasoline version.
And what universe will they produce this car in?
Yeah, still waiting for that shoe to drop.
It's the same universe that produced their emission standard software.
Yes. That was the first thing I thought of, was clearly they're testing with the same cheat codes.
So you drive for 100 miles and the odometer clicks over 300 miles, and you plug into the charger and the clock shows 15 minutes after an hour.
I think they're using Microsoft time.
Oh my gosh.
In which you don't really know.
They must get really, really good dope in Germany.
Oh my God. So they broke it down, and here's what they did. They said Tesla's Model S gains 58 miles of range per hour at 240 volt charging. In order to sufficiently charge for 300 miles in 15 minutes, you would need 800 volt charging. I mean, we're talking about, just piping, just boom, dropping that crap in there. What are they on? It's just
charging
so
cable alone would have to be 2.5 inches in diameter. I mean,
you wouldn't even.
And what do you have to go to a nuclear power plant to get? I mean, like, where, it's
like
not.
Back to the Future. It produces 2.1
gigawatts.
Right.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yes, there's just a big metal pole that attracts lightning. That's what it is.
You plug it in and the lights dim. I mean, what? I mean, the only reason I had to bring this article online is because as soon as I saw it, I just started laughing. This is absurd. However, according to them, they do have until 2025 to figure this out.
Well, that's convenient.
See, that explains
they don't have to
it
worry
all.
about it for another 9 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Because by then we'll have developed time travel, which means they'll actually have an indefinite amount of time to figure it out and then bring the technology back.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was it. I mean, that was
next week's article.
the comic relief.
That's beautiful. I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have one more Volkswagen article, and this dropped in Fortune just today. So, and Fortune posted it. They were carrying an article that came from Reuters that Volkswagen has said that it might not resume selling diesels in the United States at all, even if they were allowed. And I thought that was an interesting way it was phrased in the article. Even if allowed, they may not sell diesels in the United States again. So the vote is still out as to whether or not they'll even be allowed to sell diesels. And they've come out and said, Janine Ginnivan had said, they haven't disclosed it. So it might be that in the US they're going gasoline only, and then they won't have diesels at all. Period.
I just, at what point do we just stop listening to what they had to say?
Oh, that was like last year, October.
Yeah. I mean, like, maybe we should call that the Faraday threshold. Because I noticed today Faraday's hired some other executive to be in charge of product marketing. I'm like, what product? They don't make anything yet. I mean,
they market the shit out of it.
What poor bastard at the end of his career is going to take a job with Faraday to be in charge of marketing what? Hot air?
Invisible product takes a long time to get it right.
Right.
The marketing is painstaking with that kind of stuff because it could go anyway.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that they still haven't built their factory. They do.
Factory.
I wonder if Las Vegas is starting to regret their decision.
I think the state of Nevada has been very, very kind of. I mean, there was just an article that I read this last week about them, and I'm sorry, Tony, I don't mean to take over the, but it was interesting. They actually had, remember the during the press release, they had 6 of those little Bobcats, those toy tractors out there grading,
clearing the tumbleweed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they were just pushing around tumbleweed
for their 5 billion square foot factory. Of course, right? There's 6 of these Bobcats. Well, now the most recent photographs had some dude from the state of Nevada business development guy and standing out there in a suit, looking very impressive. And I want to tell you, it looks honestly like nobody's done jack shit out there. It's still like tumbleweeds and dirt, but now there's about a dozen pieces of grading equipment that look like they might have been made around 1940, 1950. Really old, maybe they found them and they just parked them there. Maybe they don't move on their own. I don't know. But suffice to say that they say the basic grading is done.
What does that even mean?
It's the stinking desert. It's already flat as a board.
Yeah, do you really need to grade anything there?
What they meant was basic grading was done by nature 5 million years ago.
Exactly. When the glaciers receded, the grading was complete. Well, Tony, thank you for the Volkswagen stories.
Yeah, we all need a good laugh.
I threw up a little bit in my mouth. just a little bit. Let's do the shout outs and go home. I think we've had a successful show, and before I wreck it, we'll let's wrap this bad boy up. Mr. Schaefer, why don't you lead the shout outs this week?
Well, yeah, of course. First one, once again, give a shout out to Philip Barclay for his excellent work at Flippin' Stories on our Flipboard page. And that is one of the ways that you can keep up with us. You can find us on Flipboard, which is a news aggregator. If you're not familiar with Flipboard, go to flipboard.com, sign up. You can start building your own magazines. Make sure you subscribe to ours. It's called What Drives Us. You can also find our Facebook page, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Leave us comments. We post articles. Patrick does a great job of lining up our buffer, and then our articles drop, I think, once a day, or maybe he does a few times a day. These are the articles that we're reading. These are the things that are keeping us engaged, and you can read along right with us. Also, I want to give a shout out to Only Child Brewing. I'm drinking tonight the No Way Jose, which, if you can read it, is brewed with organic agave and a lime zest. It's very interesting. It's very good.
All right.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, Tony.
Oh, one more. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. Just remember one more shout out to Anthony Rizzo, who twice today hit a 2-run home run against the St. Louis Cardinals. The magic number for the Chicago Cubs is now 1.
Yep. At least it didn't happen in St. Louis.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
Somehow
God.
that makes it all better.
It made it a lot better.
How's that
Evan,
wild card going for you?
Evan, you're next up.
well.
Go ahead, tear into him. Come on.
God, I got nothing. They're killing us, and we're failing at every opportunity. So we're still in the hunt, but it's getting further away. So anyway, I want to my shout out this week is to the people of Springfield that showed up to my Tesla test ride and drive event about a week and a half ago. Had it turn out about 25 people, which is about all Tesla really wanted us to have. We were prepared to market it much more strongly, and they really want to keep it kind of dialed down a little bit. But the 25 people that came, several of them stayed for over 3 hours until after the event had shut down. We're still talking with the Tesla representatives that were there and myself. So that was really exciting. And then we had 8 or 9 people come do test drives the next day, and I sold at least 1 car that day. So that was a pretty good deal. So really excited about that went off well, and hopefully got some attention from Tesla for this Springfield, Missouri market. Other than that, that's about all I've got. I drank a homebrew. It's gone.
Fusco Brewery.
I drank a homebrew. Well, there you go. Hey, Mark, how are you going to follow that up?
We've got an event coming up in KW. Russell, what's KW?
It's the Kitchener-Waterloo district.
Bingo.
Or region, excuse me. The Kitchener-Waterloo
region.
region.
Yes. And we're doing it for National Drive Electric Week. It's on this Saturday at Conestoga Mall. If you're in town, drop by. There's free test drives of Volts, Leafs, iMEV, Ford Focus, and possibly the Mitsubishi Outlander.
Wait, you have a Ford Focus Electric?
There's a Ford Focus Electric, yes.
You have it.
Is it your prime minister's car?
No, it's not.
One.
Holy shit.
I want to give a shout out to Plug and Drive, a national electric vehicle group that is bringing the cars to our event, as well as we've got a photo booth where you can get your picture with Elon Musk or Bob Lutz or whoever you like. And we also have a number of owners of EVs coming out. There's going to be not a salesman in sight, but if you have interest in EVs and want to talk to people that actually drive and live with them in the region, come out on Saturday.
Well,
I wish I could make that. It sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. I'm going to do my Prius Chat Shop plug. Here we go, Danny Cooper. Keep those checks coming, baby. If you own a Prius and you need accessories or fun stuff for your car, be sure to visit the Prius shop for all your accessory needs. You can find it at priuschat.com/shop. That's priuschat.com/shop. Every item sold at the Prius shop has been inspected and tested by Prius owners. priuschat.com/shop. All those offspring of Danny's need every penny. And he said something about selling organs. I don't know what that was about. So please, for the love of God, go buy some mud flaps or something from him, okay?
I think his kids are taking music lessons, I think is what the...
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, so Tony, have you already done your other one? So should I just skip ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, be sure to visit us at our main site, whatdrives.us. We post every show in audio video form for streaming or downloading. Also, at whatdrives.us, we started posting articles and reviews from the experts you see right here. Want to learn how to drive more efficiently? Tony will lecture you until you turn blue and fall over.
To death. Yes.
But he's also writing the definitive series on it. So in all seriousness, if you actually want to learn something, it's a brilliant place to go. Our complete archives and more at whatdrives.us.
So, of course, if you want to make sure you don't miss a single one of our shows, make sure you subscribe. Stitcher, Slacker, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, I don't know, Hitter, Smacker, something. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
You may want to reword
that's not legal.
Smacker? I don't... Is that a porn site?
No, but trademark it. For God's sake.
Smacker.us. I don't think so. That's not good.
So go out to any of one of those, Stitcher, Slacker, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, subscribe, download, leave reviews, and anyone who leaves a positive review on iTunes will get your name put in a raffle to win a brand new boat. I can't even do it with a straight
I'm sorry.
face.
My attorney's on the phone and says, stop that shit.
You could have your name added to a Model 3.
We've already violated laws in like 16 states. Let's just no.
And as
boat
we know,
route.
already 10 states have X's on them, so they're not even participating anymore.
I held back on Kentucky. Okay, as soon as I brought up Kentucky, I was like. I'd also like to thank the panel for being on the show and all of our listeners for spending some time with us. As always, Michael Mannering for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. And you can watch his amazing videos on YouTube, some of which I have taken. Also, I have this little weird thing called the PriusOwnersGroup.com. And if you care about Prius and you're not a forum guy, you just want to read somebody popping off all smart ass about it, PriusOwnersGroup.com. Let me invite you there. That's all for this week. Make sure you tune in or download us next week to find out what drives us.
See ya.
That was my best salute.
It's dandy.
It's the only time I get to headbang. See you next week. Bye-bye.